It's normal.
Who practiced in your household?
My mother, my aunt, my uncles. So I mean, it's everybody that was older. It was part of life. I just assumed that everybody did it. I was a natural born medium, and there are people that have memories from infancy. I also remember speaking to spirits, and they would come to me as a baby and talk to me, and they were very nice to me. There was nothing ever evil. All my memories are of nice spirits, and I've always had spiritual assistance and things that I've done, and just assumed everybody did. I didn't feel special or different than anyone else. It wasn't until I went to school, to kindergarten, that I was warned you have to keep your mouth shut. Well, that didn't matter because I couldn't speak English. So, and I was like the only kid that ever failed kindergarten, by the way. So, because I couldn't speak English.
Is it because you spoke Spanish in your household?
Yeah. Spanish.
Hereditary things are a big issue as well. Not everybody's going to be as skilled a magician as maybe you are.
It could be DNA memory. I know my grandmother was a Santeria, and she practiced brujeria and palo.
You grow up in America, in Detroit. Throughout school, junior high school, was this something that you discussed with your friends?
No, because I was sworn to secrecy. Yeah, don't talk to the kids about it. And I think it was a good thing too, because I didn't want to be secluded, and I had a normal childhood. I have a well-rounded education. I've been a model. I've been an actress. I've been I'm still licensed as a cosmetologist, but I got bored with the girly stuff. It's like, I want to join the Air Force. So I joined the Air Force. I was in a combat unit as a medic, and I even visited Nam. And I stayed in the Air Force for 8 years, and then I went to college and did all the college stuff.
How did you work your spirituality while you were in the Air Force?
A lot. I mean, patience. I mean, these patients were combat patients, severely injured patients, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I had to work it all the time and call on spirit guides. I would call on doctor spirits, on nurses spirits. I call on my spirit guides, my personal spirit. I got to tell you who I called on a lot. I called on the spirit of Florence Nightingale perpetually. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I mean, if you don't know anything about Florence Nightingale, she was a very, 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 very wealthy woman. And back in the olden days, and this is like the olden days before I was born, because I'm 64, so people think I rode my dinosaur to school. But this is way before I was born. She was a very influential high society family. And back in those days, during the Crimean War,
Mm.
anybody who was a nurse was a prostitute. They would bring in prostitutes to practice nursing, and nobody knew what they were doing. And she decided she was going to make nursing a profession. And she brought in nuns. And she fought her family. She fought them tooth and nail. She walked away from all of it to help the soldiers in the Crimean War. And she was the one that created nursing. And she also created the baccalaureate degree nurse. That's what she always wanted. Now we have different levels, but I would call on her spirit all the time. She was an incredible woman. People laugh because they say, "Oh, Florence Nightingale." She was a phenomenal woman. I mean, she had balls of steel, to go up against all of that, to risk her reputation. She didn't care, that she would be, what's the word?
Like lumped in with the prostitutes?
Lumped in with the prostitutes. Labeled. She didn't care. She didn't care. She wanted to help people. And God, she really did. So I called on her spirit a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot.
What does that mean when you call on a spirit? Like, would you see her? Would she be standing next to you?
You know, I've never seen her, but I could feel her. I could feel her. And these were times that I needed miracles. And you see a lot of miracles, you know, either in combat. And then I became a level 1 trauma center nurse, you know, and we all saw some amazing stuff that's inexplainable. And it's interesting because laymen think that doctors and nurses are atheists. We're the most spiritual people around because we see things. You know, we see, I can't tell you how many times a code comes in, you know, a code, cardiac arrest. Okay. A code comes in and you can see the spirit. It's not like in the movie Ghost where it comes up. Like it isn't like that. You'll actually see the silhouette of the body of the person who's getting CPR, if you will. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated. It's actually ACLS stuff. But anyway, you can see them standing at the foot of their bed or the foot of their cart. And, you know, we would know that we'd have to call it because they were just looking at their bodies and they were leaving. I've had patients die on me and I felt the woof, the air. It was just like real fast, woof, near death experiences. I did not believe in them. I thought it was all bullshit. I thought it was all chemical because when you pass on, your brain does things so it's not unpleasant, right? And I thought it was all hallucinatory and all these things that were caused by chemicals. Because why did I believe that? Because everybody was seeing the same things, right? So that's got to be the chemicals. So I had a patient, and when I was a trauma nurse, and he had this. I'm sitting on my foot, so I'm getting up. So he had a rare condition because he worked in a bakery, and all this yeast got into his lungs. And when he'd have an acute respiratory attack, it was devastating. And there were times that, because, you know, it isn't one ER doc, it isn't one emergency room doc, you know, they change shifts every 8 hours and there's more than one. And, you know, they only work a few days a week. So there were times that he almost died, but one doctor figured out what to do. He figured it out. And I have almost a photographic memory, and he was my favorite patient. So every time he'd come into the ER, the doctors would say, just go at it. I mean, most of the time, if I was on, he never really saw a doctor. I did everything the doctor signed off, claimed the glory, you know. I do all the work they said. And then I went into administration, right? I went into hospital administration. But whenever they call a code or a trauma in the ER, I had to go because it's in my blood, right? I had to go. And there he was. He was in the trauma room. He was in cardiac arrest. And I had no say so because I wasn't an ER nurse anymore. I was an administrator. So I tell people that when you watch ER programs, right, and the doctor goes, a syringe of adrenaline, then somebody yells back, a syringe of adrenaline. What is going on is not for dramatic purposes, okay? What is going on is usually when you call a code, right, be it a code 1, everybody comes, okay? And the doctor is screaming orders, and then the nurse who takes the orders is screaming back because someone in the back is taking notes. So the doctor ordered this, nurse so-and-so did that. That's the reason we yell in the ER. So I came into the ER, I was like, I'll take notes. I'm in the back of the room. This is a great big room. And I'm in the back and I'm taking notes and I'm crying my eyes out. And there was an intern with me. And he's like, what's wrong? I said, I've come to love him like a father. And he looked to me like he was dead. This time I believe that that was it. So I'm telling the intern all these things, but I'm whispering, okay? Had he been awake, alert, and sitting up in his cart, there were so many people in the room, he never would have seen me, let alone hear me. They resuscitated him. So now he's in ICU, and I go to ICU, intensive care unit. I go to the ICU constantly checking up on him. And about 2 or 3 days later, he regains consciousness. And he sits up, and Aida and told me what I was wearing and everything I said. He was hovering over me, watching me. And from that day forward, I knew there was such a thing as near-death experience, and it wasn't chemically induced. It was the real deal. So I mean, tell you, we see some stuff. So I've met a lot of nurses since I've become an author with Wiser that are witches. So that has surprised me pleasantly, if you will.
I mean, if you really think about it, perhaps back in the day when witches were burned, they were doing things that many nurses today would be doing, right? They were administering drugs, they were helping pregnant women, those who are able to hold the energy of being in life and death situations, whether it's in combat, whether it's in the ER. It makes sense that they would have something about them that's more than just, what we see with our five senses. They know the invisible world exists because there's firsthand experience.
Oh, yeah. And I met a lot of doctors that were witches too. So
really?
we acknowledge each other, if that makes any sense, but not to the entire staff. So we would get together and, but not to everybody.
What do you define as a witch, or who do you define as a witch?
I define a witch, this is my personal interpretation, and everybody has their own. I think that a witch is anybody who practices magic successfully and gets manifestation.
What is magic to you?
What is magic?
Mm-hmm.
Magic is exceeding what the mundane world demands. Magic is acknowledging that there's another world. There's another realm, if you will. Magic is working with that realm. Magic is loving everything that's created. Magic is appreciating everything. And I think magic is, if we want to get profound, I think the practice of medicine is magic.
It is.
I think that religion is magic. And it's always been my contention that prayer is just a ritual. It's a magical ritual under the guise of something else. This is how we make it permissible. It's magic, but this is how we make it permissible. We say, "Dear God," at the end, and at the beginning, and or whomever. Then it's permissible. It's still magic. It still is, because you're communicating with another realm, and you're interacting with another realm, and you're either asking for assistance, right? That's magic.
Would you say that what you do is witchcraft and magic, or do you see what you do as something different than that?
Something different.
Could you define that a little bit more?
And I don't mean this as a bloodline. You know how a person would come home and talk to their mother or father or brother or sister that, so-and-so is doing something really bad to me. Okay, so now your brother, your sister, your father is going to go over there and kick their ass. right? And not always in a negative way, right? So I come home and I talk to my family and, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? That's how I feel about it because it's always been there. I try to teach everybody in practical terms. There are no great big secrets. There are some secrets, such as, if you're in Santeria or Apollo, there are some secrets that you must keep. I certainly would never give anybody a death spell. I would never, ever do that. So, I mean, those are types of secrets that I do keep to myself. But it's my objective to show people that virtually anybody can perform magic. And I try to teach them not only how to do it, but the key is why they're doing it. For instance, I had a master class the other day. Why do we use a candle? Many people don't know this. Candle is a tool for communication. That's why we inscribe the candle. That's why we put pictures. That's why we, put incense or whatever we're doing. It can be as simple as lighting a candle and putting it over a picture. Or it can get complicated. You can put herbs in there. You can put oils in there. But all you're doing is enhancing the communication process. Knowing why you're doing something is the key.
I love how you said that. I just had like a light bulb moment because it's almost like you're calling somebody and you're boosting the reception, right? By using the candle. If you see it as, this is me, like I want to get a message across to somebody, I don't know, 2 towns away, but now I have this thing that's going to amplify my voice and make the message clearer. And so the intention that I have when I'm using the candle will be different because I'll be like, oh, this is like an amplifier. This is a clarifier of my message. The oils and the herbs, it's like, oh, these are additional wires, fibers, whatever it is to make the telecommunication.
I like the word wires. I like that. Yeah. Why do we light a candle? Because the flame of the candle pierces the veil between our world and the spiritual world. So it's breaking that barrier. And then the flame of the candle gives whomever we're calling upon energy. Have you ever been to a Catholic church? Have you ever been to a Greek Orthodox church? Because I've been to a zillion. There's candles everywhere.
You are.
Okay, what are they doing? They're lighting a candle, to ask God for whatever they're asking God for. Okay, same principle. They're breaking the veil. Religion is magic. People can't seem to get that, they can't seem to understand that. Religion, as far as I'm concerned, is magic.
It sounds like so much of what people may do, even if they're not religious, if they light a candle because, I don't know, a celebrity that they really loved passed away and they're lighting a candle in honor of that celebrity, that's a type of magic as well, right? And they're piercing the veil.
Absolutely, because you're sending, good thoughts. I hope he crosses, or she, whomever, crosses over peacefully, and you could be lighting a candle to give the family comfort. You're sending out communication is what you're doing.
Let's say there's somebody who's not religious, not spiritual whatsoever, but they want to send out like good wishes to some, I don't know, like maybe there was a tragedy that happened, like a big tragedy, some plane crash or something. They want to send out good thoughts to the victims. If you light a candle, is there a marked difference between sending out good wishes with and without a candle?
There is. Okay. Number one, sound is energy. And I always tell people your prayers must be recited out loud. Your petitions must be recited out loud. Your commands must be recited out loud. Because sound is energy, which, it transmits, right? So, in my perspective, when you're lighting that candle, you're sending it out faster. So, it's almost like snail mail versus an email. The email would be the candle, and the snail mail would be me, just putting that energy out.
Just like thinking it rather than saying it.
I think that thinking does not emit energy.
at
It
all.
has to be verbally stated. If you read any of my books, I always say prayers must be recited out loud. They must be recited out loud.
Is there a difference between reciting something, let's say, quietly because you're shy, or very loudly?
You're asking the wrong person because I'm Cuban. I'm loud. Okay. I have never in my life, and everything that I teach, I've done. I don't teach anybody to do something that I've never done. I've never whispered ever. So I can't tell you if it works. I just can't. I was always raised also that when I state commands or petitions, I was always, trained to scream them out loud.
I'm asking because, there's a lot of people at church that are going to be whispering like they're praying, but they're
Yeah,
doing.
and I hate that, and I hate silent prayer. Like when the priest says, "Oh, so and so is sick. Let's have a silent prayer for him," and always thinking, who the hell's going to hear that? And the whole church is quiet, right? It's like, okay.
Oh my God. So I love that you said that because these are principles that can be applied no matter what sort of magic that you're doing. So, okay, you know that say it out loud and a candle amplifies it as well. So, hey, if you say it out loud in a commanding or voice filled with gravitas and you have a candle with the intention and all of that put together, wow, so much more effective.
Exactly. I was taught by my family, just do it. This is the way you have to do it. But as I got older, then I asked why. You know how you get rebellious, at a certain age, teenager. Why? 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 And then they tell me why, but they never told me why before.
Mm.
Just do it, just do it. So yeah.
That sounds a lot like Asian families. It's like you just do it because I tell you so. And
Yeah.
then later, when you're like a lot older, then they're like, okay, now that you've actually done the work, then we can explain it to you. But even if they explained it to the person when they were younger, maybe it wouldn't have made sense because they had to actually do it first.
Right, right.
So you were, working at the hospital, you were doing ER things, and then now you're teaching. Like, how did that happen?
I wanted to go back to my roots because I'm a retired nurse, and doing readings helped me through nursing school. Doing performing spells helped me through nursing school. I moved my mother in with me because my father had died, and realistically I did kind of sway away from the hardcore magic, if you will. And that's what I called it. Bringing my mother to live with me because after my father died, then everything started coming back and I was back to the old ways. And, when you're growing up, you're kind of ashamed, right? Because this isn't what other kids are doing. This isn't what your friends are doing. And I reached a point that I had ultimately concluded that my family was weird and I was ashamed of them. And I regret that every day of my life now because when I brought my mother to live with me, it was like, wow, this is really beautiful. And my aunt had died, my uncles had died. And I'm so sorry because, and this is another thing I tell people, listen to old people, listen to them. If I had written down everything that everyone had told me my entire life, I could have written volumes and volumes and volumes of encyclopedias. And it's the biggest mistake I ever made, but I think we all make that mistake. When we become teenagers, we're all weird. So I missed out. I feel that I should have embraced all of this rather than have been embarrassed about it. And my godparents too, my godparents in Santeria and Palo, I was ashamed of them too. So
Were you initiated by, like, when you say that you didn't feel as comfortable like embracing that part of your life, but you had to be initiated, or were you just automatically initiated as part of like?
You get initiated, you have to have initiations.
So when were you initiated? And you still,
The
even
first
after
initiation was in utero, because my mother was a Santera, so you can do that. You can initiate your child in utero. And yeah, I don't want to talk about initiations because I don't want to discuss what they
Yeah.
I mean, those are things I keep secret because you have to.
Your mom starts to live with you, and then the old ways, you start to reconnect with your roots. And now you're teaching, and that's why we're talking today, because we're talking about your latest book, and it's called Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic. But you've also written other books.
Right.
And you also mentioned that, oh, you wish you had written everything down that your family had told you, because then you would have had encyclopedias of knowledge. So you mentioned Santeria and you mentioned other things, but Hoodoo, why Hoodoo? Like when people think of Hoodoo, they have a very specific image.
Okay, what is that image? Yeah, because I've been spending the last couple months telling people the difference between voodoo and hoodoo. So.
On TikTok, there is this humongous debate going on, right? That first of all, the difference between hoodoo and voodoo, most kids have already kind of like argued it out. And I spoke to Mambo Sierra on my YouTube channel like back in April. And she said, well, voodoo is kind of like the religion, hoodoo's the practice, and voodoo.
Magical religion, yeah.
Yeah. And voodoo is something that you have to be initiated into. Now, the big argument right now is hoodoo also an open practice or a closed practice?
I would say it's open. I would say it's open. There's no initiation process.
Can anyone do hoodoo?
Anyone can do Wicca. Anyone can do Santeria. Anyone can do voodoo. Not all of it, but they can do certain aspects of it. Hoodoo is a folk magic practice. And as you know, because you've been listening to the arguments, right, that voodoo is a magical religious practice. So I tell people, and the same with Santeria. So I tell people, in fact, I have it on my website, I don't have a great blog, but I do have something on my blog that you don't have to be an initiated Santera to pray to the Orishas. You can light a candle and pray to an Orisha and ask for help. And 9 out of 10 times they help you. That one time they don't help you is because you really don't believe. I know there's a lot of frowning about cultural appropriation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get upset when people practice Santeria, so I can't speak for that. Being Cuban, I do have African blood in me. The other thing too is hoodoo has incorporated Asian magic, Native American magic. It's got heavy Judeo-Christian influences. It's ever evolving due to the input of influences. So I don't know, that's a tough question that I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not African American complete, I have African Cuban in me, but I can't speak for African American. But if that's the question you're asking me, if you're asking me, can someone pick up a hoodoo book and perform that spell? Yeah. Hoodoo, those poor people, when they came here to the United States, they had to work with what they had, right? Whatever was available. And that's what I try to do in my books, is to help you work with whatever's available, not to go out and buy $1 trillion billion worth of stuff that you don't need, when all you might need is an 89-cent bottle of ammonia, right, to do the same thing. It's my goal to help people to do things for themselves and to realize it's not that difficult. You just got to have intent and faith. And then if you have intent and faith, yeah, hoodoo will work for you. I don't judge people. I don't judge anybody. There are times I see a lot of people that do things in Santeria and lie. They lie through their teeth. And there's so many of them out there, and they're well known. They're well known, and it's like, no, 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 no. But I bite my tongue. Am I insulted? Yes. Do I think the Orishas are insulted? Yes. They've prostituted Santeria. It upsets me terribly, terribly. But I keep my mouth shut. I don't say a word. It's not for me to judge.
People get into flame wars and have hexed each other over this topic.
I have no tolerance for witch wars. No tolerance at all. I'm 64 years old. I don't need that crap. You know what I mean? And the best thing for people to do is to stay out of witch wars. When I teach cursing and crossing, when I teach anything, even in Hoodoo, cleansing and protection, all my books, I've got another one coming out next year. Shut up. Keep your mouth shut. Okay? There's a line from The Devil's Advocate that I plan to add to my new manuscript. And Al Pacino, he plays the devil. Have you seen the movie? It's
I
a
love
long.
the movie. Yeah.
Oh my God, he is such a sexy devil. So anyway, he says that he stays in the trenches. They never see him coming. He does this in recites these lines in great detail. In other words, shut up and be a snake in the grass. If I tell you right now, hypothetically, knock on wood, I'm going to curse you. Okay? I knocked on wood so that the spirit of the wood wouldn't hear me. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to put up protection. My curse is not going to work. Why do people get involved in stupid witch wars? It's ridiculous. And not only that, you're taking advantage of a gift that will be taken away from you. I believe that I personally have absolutely no power. I'm just a tool. When I do psychic readings, it's not me. I don't allow my patient. I keep saying patients because I'm a nurse. I keep, I always, when my clients say, oh, Miss Aida, you're the best reader. No, I'm not doing it. Okay? My spiritual cord is doing it. When my spells work, I'm just a tool. These are not gifts that I have. My gift is being able to communicate with them. My gift is, to communicate cohesively. That's my gift. I mean, you have to know some stuff like how to read candle wax or when your spell's not good. I mean, those are certain things you have to know, but anybody can do that. The trick is how close are you to your spiritual cord? So you start throwing things here and doing that and doing that. The bottom line is you use it and you abuse it. Now, there was a woman, and you're way too young to remember this, but there was a program called Dallas. And
I remember. It's fashionable again now.
oh, okay. So Linda Evans, she found this psychic, and the psychic was absolutely phenomenal. And she had a spirit guide, or I don't know if he was a spirit, I don't know who he was, but it was incredible. I mean, it was her rapport with this entity was absolutely incredible. And he would, if I remember correctly, he would possess her and talk to people. And everything he told them, everything came to pass. And he told the woman, the psychic, his tool. I call psychics tools. Okay. He told this tool, you can't be abusing this. You can't do it. And she ignored him. And next thing you know, she's got a fancy mansion and all this other stuff. He left her. I don't know what happened, but she was no longer in the rag mag. She was no longer in any. She just disappeared. And he left her. But he warned her, you abuse it, you're going to lose it. I'm not doing this all the time for you. Because you know what? You're using them. You're using them. What if I called you and asked you for a favor and you went out of your way to do me a favor, and then I call you the next day, well, can you do me another favor? And then you go out of your way and do me a favor. Then I call you, middle of the afternoon, can you do me a favor? And then you do me a favor. Even in the nighttime, can you do me a favor? At some point, you're going to say, no, no, you don't appreciate what I've done for you. Why am I keep doing this stuff for you? Why?
Right.
You got to use logic when you practice magic. You got to use logic when you're communicating.
When you're working hoodoo, when you're doing root work, conjure, are you working in any way with spirits or is it just with the materials?
No, I always work with spirits. I don't just work with material.
What sort of spirits would you be working with?
Well, if I do negative spell work, I only call on my spirit guides and my ancestors because I don't want the saints and all the holy entities to know anything about it. Okay. If I'm doing positive work, then I'll call on saints, I'll call on orishas, I may call on God, even, depending on what it is.
Nice.
I've called on the Virgen Caridad de Cobre. She's a patron saint of Cuba. She's worked with me through my whole life. She's the very, very best. She's my patron. And that's what I do when I do positive work. But when I do negative work, no. I don't want them to know. It's kind of stupid because they do know, but I don't want them to know.
Okay. I mean, the way that you're talking about hoodoo, then it sounds a bit different from how maybe a lot of these young TikTok witches talk about, because they make it sound as though that everything's empowered by their ancestors. But it sounds like for you, you're talking to this spirit or that spirit, depending on what sort of spell that you're trying to do.
Ancestor veneration is very important, but something happened and I don't know what it was. But all of a sudden it's all about ancestral veneration, and that doesn't make sense to me. It's like, what happened? It's part of the practice. Herbs have spirits, right? They're plants. Roots have spirits. Plants have spirits. Minerals have spirits. Stones have spirits. Okay. That's not empowered by your ancestors. That's empowered by God. He gave them all spirits. Maybe they call on their ancestors for assistance, but it isn't the ancestors that are giving the tools powers.
So it's almost like the ancestors are one department of the entire company, but there's other departments.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you're trying to do something HR related, you talk to the HR department. If you're trying to do something accounting related,
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yes. I like it.
okay, well, hoodoo has been making this huge resurgence in terms of like everybody thinks that hoodoo is the thing to do right now, but everyone's sort of like, oh, tiptoeing around. Am I allowed to? Am I not allowed to? What is folk magic exactly?
Folk magic is a practice that happens in certain areas when a group of people have common beliefs, and then it becomes folk magic. We could start our own folk magic if everybody on my block, hypothetically, decided that a lighter, I'm making this crap up, okay, because it's impossible. Well, we decided that a lighter will empower us to fly, and a dog will empower us to speak to all animals, and we all start sharing this common belief. Then it becomes the folk magic of my neighborhood. It becomes a group thinking process that is the same.
Okay, so it's magic of the people. It's the magic of a very specific location and
Right.
the traditions of that specific group of people.
Right.
If you are in like a fraternity or sorority, they're doing folk magic.
Absolutely. There you go. There you go. All those initiations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a a sheriff, I forgot his name. He learned to be a hoodoo practitioner. If I said his name, you would know it. He's written a couple of books about his experiences as a sheriff in a hoodoo community. And his contention is that if you practice negative magic, it makes your positive magic weaker. I haven't found that. I haven't found that to be true. Everybody has their own beliefs.
Why do you think people believe that? Because it's not just in regards to hoodoo. Like, there's a lot of people who say stuff like any sort of curse work that you do, baneful magic you do, it's going to come back at you threefold.
I believe it's Wicca. You know, whatever you do will come back to you.
Right.
Right.
Threefold. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a threefold. Now, I believe that too in one instance. I believe that if you curse somebody and the curse is not justified, I mean, I don't know if it'll come back to you threefold, but I think somehow, some way, you're gonna pay for that. I really do. Because I do, most hoodoo practitioners do not believe in karma. It's not part of the hoodoo belief system, but I do believe in it. And that's why I think any spell has to be justified. Anything. No, I mean, if I do a crown of success spell or a healing spell, I don't have to justify that because I'm not hurting anybody, right? But if I'm doing negative magic or even love spells, and I had said this on another program, you got to think about love spells. Is this guy married? Does he have a lot of children? Are you breaking something up and bringing him to you just for selfish purposes? Who are you hurting? Even love spells, I believe, have to be justified.
Are love spells in general unethical?
In certain situations, they are. I think that, all right, let me put it to you this way. So when I was an ER nurse, some of the nurses had crushes on single doctors, okay? And I do love spells, and they worked. That's not unethical. He had nobody, she had nobody, got them together. In fact, I created 2 weddings out of that. And it's happened where the nurses have asked me, I know he's married and blah, 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 but can you do a love spell? I wouldn't do it. That to me is unethical.
That's a big debate going on as well, saying that love spells, there's one camp on TikTok, very vocal camp, that says you're messing with somebody's free will. So even if
Yeah, those are caging spells, and I don't believe in, and I know I'm using the term and I'm stealing it from Wicca, but there's no other way to explain it, okay? Caging spells are when the person is forced to be with you, right? You use domination ingredients.
there's different types of love spells.
Right. And I think those are very unethical. I would never do that to anybody, ever. I'd like to. I mean, there are some guys that are really hot that I would love to do that, but it's unethical. It's unethical.
How is a caging spell different from a more ethical love spell?
It forces somebody to be with you and only you. I don't perform those.
Versus a love spell, like, would a petition for a more ethical love spell, would it be more like if they want to, or if
No,
it's okay?
I would say, this person would love me. I wouldn't say only me. Then we're technically getting into problems ethically.
For hoodoo spells, are the petitions, is the wording of the petition very important?
Very important. Very, very important. It's another form of communication. So, petition papers, you can put them under candles. There you go, more communication, right? I mean, there's different places you can put petition papers, and they've existed for a long time. They're back in the olden days, they only used petition papers. And there are some realms of practice where today that you only use a petition paper or use just a petition paper in a different fashion as its own entity, as its own spell. So you can use it along with spells, or you can use it as a spell in a different situation.
When you say petition paper, are we talking about a consecrated piece of paper? Or are we talking about
Right. So you've got a piece of paper, and you know, based on how I was raised, it's always a torn piece of paper bag without factory folds, and then you write out what it is with a pencil, and then you anoint the paper. Then when you anoint it, it gives it some sort of a life, if you will. It gives it some sort of wakes it up.
the love spells that you did that helped the nurses and the doctors get together? Like in general, how would it be? Like you take that petition paper, you write out, he loves her, she loves him, anointed.
No. So when I do love spells, I don't just do a love spell. So maybe I should have made that clear to begin with. Okay. First, we do an attraction spell to attract the person towards. I mean, you just don't make somebody love you. It doesn't work that way. It's not logical. Okay. Because if I could do that, I'd bring Andy Garcia here, or it's a process. So I mean, you gotta to start the attraction first, right? And that's what I would do. It wasn't just one spell. And then if I got results, then I'd move on to the next thing, such as come to me, right? Follow me, then love me. It's not just love me. Now, let's put this in perspective too. There are people I can't stand. I absolutely hate their guts. I mean, I hate them. If they were to put an attraction spell on me, it isn't going to work. There's no need to go any further. So if this works, okay, let's do this. Then let's do this. Yes, don't do a love spell. I don't believe in that.
Let's see if there's potential.
Exactly.
And if any step along the way it isn't reciprocated, then oh well. But you're not forcing them. If it doesn't work, the come to me part, then it's sorry. So how is that different from just not doing an attraction spell or whatever? How would that be different from the nurse just deciding to, like, I don't know, wear like really nice perfume, or or just to kind of talk to him or kind of wink or flirt with the doctor a little bit more?
And I'm only speaking from my experiences. They come in from all different areas of the hospital. They're responding to a code. I'd mentioned a code before, and then they leave. Thank you very much, blah, 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 blah. So perfume, isn't going to do it, because you've got to have some sort of magic to, hey, she's cute.
Right.
You got to have something like that. There was this one doctor. He was so handsome. And he was trying to, I wouldn't date any doctor that I worked with, because that's a bad policy, right? So he was so attracted to me, and he put on this cologne. And every time he got within 2 feet of me, I had a pounding headache because I was allergic to the cologne.
Oh no.
It was like, oh God, he's coming.
It's almost like the magic spell is a non-headache inducing cologne. This magic is not like a miracle thing. If you're going to be sexually awkward, it's not going to work.
No, it isn't. It isn't. And I say that even when I do cursing and crossing, you don't just do a spell. If the person's, and I talk about this in my book, Hoodoo, Cleansing and Protection Magic, I talk about the aura, okay? So if someone's aura is bright and healthy, right? One spell isn't going to do it. 2 spells, because you got to penetrate that aura. That aura is protecting you, right? You got to penetrate one after another after another. It's like pounding with a hammer or trying to break it down. You got to do one after another. Now, if somebody has a suppressed aura, they've had a lot of problems and their aura is suppressed, 1 or 2 spells is going to get to them.
Wow. Okay. That then makes me think, going back to the title of your book, which is about protection spells and magic. it almost sounds then like the best protection against somebody sending you curses or hexing magic is to be just mentally and emotionally healthy, to have a bright aura.
Right.
If you're doing lots of protection spells, but you're not going to your therapist or you're not having healthy relationships, it's not the best way to do this.
Right. Because it's physiological, the physiological, the psychological, and the spiritual, they're all interconnected. And if you take care of your physiological and psychological health, that will take care of your aura. But you still have to take care of, if you take care of your aura, you're also helping your physiological and psychological. It's all interrelated. You know what I mean? If you take care of your one thing, it helps the other two. So, but I always say, cleanse the aura first before you start with protection, because, and I've said this, people are tired of hearing me say it, but I'm going to keep saying it, keep saying it, and keep saying it. If I haven't bathed in a year and I donned perfume, I put perfume on myself, nice, expensive, $1,000 an ounce perfume, I'm going to stink even worse.
Right.
And if your aura is not cleansed, the protection isn't going to do anything.
Oh my God. That is such a great analogy. That's an amazing analogy. So your book.
Can you see it? Hoodoo?
Yeah, it's Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic. I think a lot of people, they want to do protection magic. They want to cleanse themselves. They're always afraid of hexes or curses landing on them. Is that what this book is about? How to protect yourself from curses?
So the book is about, and I always teach people why things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not only why are you doing it, but why things happen. So people who have had a run of bad luck, people who are irritated, angry, people who are scapegoats, for other vicious people, people who are victims of abuse, of con artists, liars, thieves, people that are victims of spiritual negativity always hanging on them, bringing in possessed objects that have been bewitched, or objects that have absorbed energy, negative energies, people that are ill, people who care for the ill, anything that has to do with negativity, attracting negative entities. So if you're attracting negative entities, you're attracting negative people, if you're attracting negative energies, why is it that a home feels really bad? There's negative entities or negative energies in the home. I explain how all of this happens and why you're feeling this way. Yes, being a victim of a curse is covered in there, and there's all kinds of signs and symptoms to alert you of that. There are signs and symptoms even to alert you if you've been possessed by an entity. I have everything. I mean, it's jam-packed with information. The most important part is that I explain why this has happened, but I also explain how to get rid of it, how to shine yourself up like you were waxing a new car, right? Or waxing your car after washing it, and then how to protect it. So that's what the book is about.
I know a lot of people, they focus on curses or being cursed, but I guess that there's a lot of other things that have to deal with bad energy, bad juju. People call it many things.
Right.
So let's say, for example, you go to a flea market, you find some furniture that you really like, and then you bring it back home. Weird stuff starts to happen in your house, and you think this is haunted. Is that sort of the stuff you're talking about as well?
Right, right. It could be possessed. I don't like to use the word haunted, but it could be possessed, right? It could have energies that possessed by an entity. It could be have absorbed bad energies. What if hypothetically that chair that you brought in the house, what if that chair killed somebody? Or what if someone was sitting in that chair when they were murdered, viciously murdered, and the chair got refurbished? That energy is in the chair. So that's the difference between an entity living within something in that chair or it absorbing negative energies. What if I hated somebody so much? Let's say, hypothetically, I'm the antique dealer and you screwed me out of money. I could put a spell on that chair, right? I could put something in that chair to bewitch that chair so that when you bring it home, all this bad stuff is going to happen to you. Let's say you you told everybody on the internet that, and there's no such store, I hope, Miss Aida's antique store. Um, I hope there's no such name. I don't want to get sued. Miss Aida and her German Shepherd dog's antique store. So there, I've made it clear. Um, she's a ripoff. She screws people over. She does all this horrible stuff. And I know who you are because I've seen you posting it all over the internet about my store, right? Then you come in and you want to buy that chair. Oh, sure, I'll sell you that chair. I'll fix her. I'll do something to that chair. So that's the difference. You can have a bewitched object, a possessed object, or an object that has absorbed negative energies. It's not for you to make that diagnosis. Although I tell you the difference, okay, I tell the reader the difference, the audience the difference, that's not for you to make the diagnosis. It's for you to get rid of it. A possessed object usually lays dormant for a while, right? Before bad things start happening, right? A bewitched object will start working immediately. So the means of disposal are virtually the same. So why would you want to spend your time figuring it out?
Then this is going to make a lot of people feel paranoid, like, oh my God, technically then the IKEA furniture that I bought new, maybe the factory worker at IKEA cursed it. So I don't feel safe bringing in any furniture, anything into my house. So how would somebody read your book and feel a little bit safer about bringing in all these outside energies?
Well, there's ways to cleanse things too. And I have a recipe in there for Chinese wash, and Chinese wash gets rid of negativity, brings in positive. You can wash it down with that. You could spray it with holy water if you're getting a little paranoid about what energies am I bringing into the home. Most likely you're not bringing in anything possessed or bewitched, but you might be bringing in some uncomfortable energies that you can easily get rid of.
So you have recipes, and when you said Chinese wash, just so that people don't freak out about it, it's actually like the name of a
Of
well-known.
a cleanser that washes away negativity and brings in positivity, or washes away negative energy and brings in positive energies.
So technically, somebody could buy your book, make just a huge amount of the Chinese wash, and just spray everything in their house right now with it. Like that's something they could do if they wanted to.
Right.
But then there's going to be stuff that's a little bit more intense. Like there's going to be situations where people are just like, I really feel like there's some negative entity attached to me. I feel like something is going on where I'm constantly attracting like really like mentally not cool people, narcissistic people.
Yeah, I have a 13-day eradication ritual in there that should take care of everything.
Oh,
And it includes a blockbuster to get rid of obstacles when you're done and then open the roads. Now, if a person is possessed, that's my last chapter. Okay. There are times that you need help. You need professional help. So I explained in the last chapter poltergeist activity, you know, hauntings. Okay, so it'd be poltergeist or intellectual hauntings. There's 4 different types of hauntings. If you're living near a portal, right? An interdimensional portal. If you suspect that there's a demonic haunting or a demonic possession, right? These are times that you need to get professional help. Trying to cover everything, everything. I mean, I went as far as to explain that, and it's because I'm a caregiver, you know, because I'm a nurse, you know, people don't understand that when someone's ill, right, they're going through a lot of hell. They really are. But what people don't understand is so are the caregivers. And that caregiver can be the wife, the son, the daughter, the husband. Okay? People don't have the empathy or the understanding to see what they're going through. They're going through torment. And that negative energy is going to attach to them too. This book is my attempt to discuss as many scenarios as possible.
And why then the modality of hoodoo? Because it sounds as though there's many other different. Why not Santeria? Like the practices there. Why not other modalities?
There's one thing I want to explain to you. Santeria, Palo, and Hoodoo have a lot in common. Okay, they're all derived from Africa. Some of the things, many of the things in this book are not only used in Hoodoo, but they're used in Santeria, Palo, even in Brujeria. So, yeah, it's incorporated into this book. It is, because they have the same roots. I talk about egg cleansing. We do that in Santeria. We do that in Palo. We do that in Brujeria. We do that in Hoodoo, right? Florida water. I talk about Florida water. Palo, Santeria, Brujeria, Hoodoo.
I think that a lot of people, they may be a little extra paranoid these days that everything is a curse. Somebody's trying to hex me. Somebody's trying to curse me. COVID, if I am afraid of catching that, it's somebody's going to curse me and I'm going to get that. So how does a person know? Is there something laid out in the book on how to know, like,
There's
what's going on?
pages and pages of signs and symptoms, right? But let me warn people about something, and I have this in my book too. If you're so afraid that you're going to get cursed, if you're that paranoid that you're going to curse, you know what's going to happen? You're going to end up cursing yourself. Okay? You're going to do it to yourself. And this is also an old trick that I also discuss in my book because I also talk about spiritual practitioners that are scammers. And I talk about the different ways that they'll scam you. And one of the biggest tricks is they will make you think that if you don't meet their whims or their desires, that they'll curse you. So if I don't send them so much money or money on an ongoing basis, you know, 80 million trillion dollars for a spell or whatever, then I'm going to curse you, or they'll imply it. And you get so paranoid because you're not going to give that person any money. And you ultimately end up doing it because you're so paranoid. Oh my God, he's cursed me. He's cursed me. And any little thing that goes wrong, right, it's going to suppress your aura to the point that you're going to have holes and tears in your aura, and you did it to yourself. And here's the most valuable lesson I want to tell people because it really gets to me. I hear it hundreds and hundreds of times. If the spellcaster's spell that you paid them for did not work, how the hell is their curse going to work?
If they can't make an omelet, how the hell can they make a filet mignon? Having your aura suppressed, I like the way that you say that. It's your aura is getting suppressed. Like when you're around toxic TV shows, drama online, people, doesn't matter. You just don't feel as good as if you're around people who are uplifting and who are, like go-getters and positive people. So let's say that you are somebody who unfortunately, maybe your parents are toxic. Your boyfriend's toxic. Your best friend is a frenemy. Are there some spells or some techniques in there on how to get away from toxic people and influence?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. But you also have to work on yourself too. You can't solve everything just with magic. And you yourself said that in the beginning. You have to work on yourself. I mean, magic complements. It doesn't fit, it's not a fix all. It really, because if it was, I wouldn't have to put makeup on every day and do my hair. You know what I mean? I could just do a magic spell. It doesn't work that way.
Right? Just wave your hand and that's.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
If you had to choose 3 songs that describe your practice and especially describe this book,
Oh my God.
what would they be?
I come from, the rock music of the 70s here.
Those are
So
some good times. Those are some good bands.
my practice and my book. Wow, there's so many songs out there. So I would say all 3 of my books would be described as witchy woman.
And let's fly. Ooh, witchy woman.
And I would say a song to describe me. I love Swamp Witch Magic, or by Jim Stanford.
Lies a sleepy little Okeechobee town. Talk a swamp witch, a hattie, lock you in when the sun goes down.
I love both those songs.
Swamp. Oh, it's the first thing that came up when I put swamp and W. The first thing that came up on Google.
It's kind of a sad song, and it kind of reminds me of me and my neighborhood because the song is about, you kind of assume it's Louisiana because he talks about the bayou. So there's this Hattie, she's a witch, and she lives in the swamp. And everybody's like, stay away from her, she's a witch. Stay away from her, she's a witch, and everything she does is bad. And then a plague comes to town, and everybody's dropping dead. And she comes in with this cauldron full of cure for this fever. They call it fever, right? And everybody gets cured. And they say, oh, well, Swamp Witch magic is good. We got to bring Hattie back. And they go to find her, and all they find is a note that says, don't come looking again. And that kind of reminds me of me. It's like, yeah, and anybody who's a witch, not everybody, but most of us, it's like people talk bad about us. They say we're evil, we're this, we're that, until they need us. So that's why I've used Swamp Witch Magic to describe me. If you hear the song, you're going to feel sorry for Hattie because she's really a great gal.
What about Witchy Woman? Why would you have that song describe your 3 books?
Because I think that once everybody reads the 3 books, they're going to feel that way, whether they're a male or a female. They're going to be empowered. They're going to be empowered.
Is there any music that you listen to when you're doing spell work, or is it just...
I have I was just talking to somebody about that last night. So a lot of witches, and let me make something clear. Everybody practices magic their own way, and everybody has their own beliefs. And I'm not discrediting anyone's beliefs, okay? This is just my personal belief. So if I want to listen to music before I perform a spell, yeah, I'll do it. But to play music while I'm performing spells, the energy, remember I told you in the beginning that sound is energy, right? So if I've got music going on in the background and I'm stating my petitions and my commands and my prayers, right? How powerful are they when I've got other energy coming in? Let me put it to you this way. So it's almost like lighting 2 different types of incense. So I light one cone for love and one cone for cursing. They're going to negate each other. They're going to smoke each other out. So I don't play music while I'm performing spells, because that music is sound. Sound is energy, and it may interfere with the energy I'm trying to output. Again, I know a lot of witches do, a lot of practitioners do, and I'm not discrediting that. I'm just telling you what works for me and my belief system.
One thing I've really noticed is that things that work great for other people do not work at all for me. So it's been a process to learn what works for me.
Right.
And so it's really useful to learn from experienced occultists, practitioners like yourself, because you try it and you learn from people who are experienced. It may work for you, it may not, but
Right.
you still learn from it. And that's the most important thing.